What is good? Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to be diving into 5 biomarkers you absolutely must optimize if you're serious about building muscle and transforming your physique. Now, the majority of, let's say, the mainstream fitness advice, we could call it, normally focuses on things like, hit your macros or apply progressive overload. And while those things are 100% true and you must apply those, they're also the basics. Like once you know, okay, you need a small surplus, you got your training on point, you're tracking your training, you're applying progressive overload every session, you're putting some effort into your sleep, so your sleep's on point, your recovery's good. We can now go, okay, let's take things a step further. Let's look under the hood and see if we can optimize our physiology so we can truly reach our physiological potential and make the most progress out of what we're already doing, our dialed in nutrition, training, recovery. So in this episode, I'm going to break down 5 biomarkers, what they mean, how they affect muscle growth, and what you can actually do about them. We're also going to sprinkle in some bonus content about gut health, insulin sensitivity, and how everything is connected as well, just because I find this stuff quite fascinating. So biomarker number 1, testosterone. So we have total, free, bioavailable, and then SSG. So this is probably the first biomarker that comes to mind in the context of building muscle and transforming your physique. It's pretty much a no-brainer, the most well-known anabolic hormone, we could call it. It drives muscle protein synthesis, strength, recovery capacity, confidence, drive, motivation in the gym as well. So it's not surprising that optimizing testosterone is like the first biomarker we're going to cover because it's at the top of the list. But it does get a little more nuanced because total testosterone, which is what people often refer to, that 300 to like 1,000 or 300 to 900 nanograms per deciliter range, that gives you an overview. But free testosterone is what's actually bioavailable, what your body can use right now. Then we got another part to this, which is the sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG, which essentially binds up testosterone, kind of renders it inactive. So you can think of it like a bank vault. The cash is not going anywhere. So for men, we want our testosterone to be in the upper third range, generally between 700 to 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. But you also want to check your SHBG because if that is running high, your free testosterone can be low, even if your total T looks great on paper. You gotta think of it like a bank or like police with handcuffs. They're gonna lock up your testosterone. So if you have high SHBG, you have more of your total testosterone. You could be at 1,000 nanograms per deciliter. But if you have a high SHBG, that 1,000 may not be as effective as someone with, let's say, 700 with a lower SHBG and a higher free T. So when you get your blood work done, it's important to take these 3 biomarkers into account: total testosterone, SHBG, and then also your free testosterone. Next is estrogen. And yes, it matters for women, of course, but for guys, it matters for us as well. Way too many guys think of estrogen as like the enemy. It's what gives you gyno, which is true. However, estrogen, specifically estradiol or E2, is anti-catabolic. It helps preserve muscle mass by reducing muscle protein breakdown, and it also plays a role in recovery, your mood, your joint health, neurological function. Now, estrogen is mainly created through the aromatization of testosterone. So while too much aromatization can be an issue, especially with individuals with high body fat, we also very much need estrogen because let's say you crash your estrogen. You are going to have mood issues, you're going to have joint pain, no libido, poor recovery. So low estrogen is a problem, but also high estrogen is a problem. That is usually driven by excess body fat. So get your body fat in check. You will aromatize less. Therefore, your estrogen will be very likely in range. Now let's pivot to inflammation. First biomarker, HSCRP, high sensitivity C-reactive protein. And this is a biomarker of systemic inflammation, so your total inflammation in the body. And when this is elevated, it will become a major roadblock to muscle growth because chronic inflammation, very catabolic. It increases muscle protein breakdown. It'll impair your recovery quite significantly. And while acute inflammation from training is completely necessary, we need it for adaptation, which is why you do not want a cold plunge post-workout because you're blunting that inflammation response that we need to adapt. But ongoing, low-grade inflammation you can get from stress, poor sleep, gut issues, nutrient deficiencies will 100% blunt your gains. So ideally, you want your HSCRP, your high sensitivity C-reactive protein, below 0.5, but between 0.5 and 1 is acceptable. But we want to trend toward that lower end, and anything above like 2 is a sign your body is devoting a little bit too many resources to stress response, not enough to recovery and growth, and there's some underlying inflammation at play. Biomarker number 4 is cortisol, the infamous stress hormone. Cortisol, 100% necessary for survival. It's what literally gets you out of bed. It helps manage blood sugar. It even drives adaptation in the correct doses. But chronically high cortisol is when things become an issue because it is catabolic, meaning it breaks down muscle to create glucose. It competes with testosterone, and testosterone and cortisol have like an inverse relationship, kind of like a seesaw. So when one is chronically high, cortisol, let's say you have chronically high cortisol, testosterone likely be lower. Now, it's not always a perfect inverse relationship, but we do tend to see that. And same with DHEA. And then cortisol also impacts your digestion, your sleep, your mood, motivation. For example, little story, last year had some chronic low-grade inflammation. My high-sensitivity C-reactive protein, the biomarker we just covered, the inflammation one, was at a 10. A 10. I had done a saliva cortisol test. My cortisol was bottomed out, meaning, you could call it quote-unquote adrenal fatigue, but you can also see the status of your adrenal health via your sodium to potassium ratio on your blood work as well. But nevertheless, from personal experience, you don't feel good when you have bottomed out cortisol. I had zero motivation, zero drive, very high fatigue, extreme brain fog. List goes on, and we're not even getting to how much my physique regressed and how much time I had to take to get back to a functional state where I couldn't really progress my physique and train hard. So we need cortisol, and we want it to follow its natural rhythm, which it looks like a spike in the morning. That's why it's important to get that morning sun. That'll help reinforce that elevated rise in cortisol in the morning, get you going. Then we want it to naturally taper down and then come down into the evening to help facilitate restful sleep. So if your cortisol is elevated throughout the day, or worse, high at night, you're living in that state of sympathetic drive, which is your fight or flight side of your nervous system. That is going to stall your recovery, make it very difficult to build muscle or drop body fat, let alone get good quality sleep and actually feel good, because ideally, you want to feel as good, if not better, than how you look. So assessing your cortisol, best done through tools like a Dutch test or a saliva test over blood work. However, you could get your fasting cortisol done through blood work as well. Biomarker number 5, your thyroid hormones. So we got TSH, free T3, and free T4. Now, thyroid hormones regulate your metabolism, so your energy output, and they directly influence muscle protein synthesis. So when we have too little thyroid activity, which is hypothyroidism, we get a sluggish metabolism. So you're going to have to eat less food just to maintain your body weight. You're going to get poor recovery, potentially muscle loss. But when we have too much, it's overactive hyperthyroidism. We get excessive muscle breakdown as well as fatigue. Now, unfortunately, most doctors will only test TSH, but as coaches and functional health individuals, we need to see free T3 and free T4 as well, because these are the active and circulating forms of thyroid hormone that actually do the work in your body. Now, ideally, you want TSH between 1 and 2.5, and you want your free T3 and free T4 to sit in the middle to the upper half of the reference range. If your free T3 is low, even with a normal TSH, you may still be dealing with sluggish thyroid and experiencing some symptoms. And again, thyroid doesn't live in a vacuum. None of these biomarkers live in a vacuum. There are patterns and there's relationships between all of them, because you got to draw out the full picture in the story here. So inflammation, stress, poor gut health, nutrient deficiencies, especially in selenium, iodine, and zinc, can all mess with your thyroid. So optimizing your thyroid health is essential for your energy, your metabolism, your mood, and of course, your gains in the gym. Now, couldn't do this episode without at least giving a shout out to insulin sensitivity, because insulin, one of the most anabolic hormones we have when it comes to muscle growth. It drives nutrients into muscle cells, it promotes muscle protein synthesis, it enhances recovery. But if you have poor insulin sensitivity, it blunts all of that. And even worse, it contributes to fat gain, inflammation, hormonal dysregulation, diseases later down the line as you get older. So optimizing insulin sensitivity starts with sleep, then resistance training. You could do 10-minute walks after meals, of course, managing your stress, and above all, maintaining a healthy body fat percentage. And you can monitor your insulin sensitivity with fasting glucose, fasting insulin, and a HOMA-IR test, 3 pretty cheap, accessible lab tests that will give you a great snapshot. However, I will say the HOMA-IR will give you the best picture of your insulin sensitivity. So these biomarkers, testosterone and the family there, estrogen, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, cortisol, thyroid, insulin sensitivity, They aren't just numbers, they're insights into how your body is functioning. You can look at them like leverage points. And when you optimize them, everything else you're doing already right, like your training, your nutrition, your supplementation, it starts to work better. So go get your blood work done, then use it as a tool to optimize your body for performance. And remember, the reference ranges are based off an unhealthy population. So you want to be in the optimal range for each biomarker, not just sitting in the quote unquote normal range, because I assume you don't want to be normal, especially when you're comparing yourself to the people that range is built off of. So that is a wrap on today's episode. If you want 30 days of free advice, tips that'll fast track your ability to build muscle, drop body fat, have more energy, optimize your health, and more to transform your physique, your health, your performance, you can click the first link in the description. And for coaching, as well as discount codes on the supplements I use, those links are in the description as well. Appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you in the next podcast. Peace.